The night before I married Juzian, I overheard him chatting with someone. So you're really going to marry Shirin? You're giving up on Yao Yao? She's very obedient, she'd make a suitable wife to bring home. True, for you, if it's not Yao Yao, then it really doesn't matter who you marry, at the wedding. As he gazed at me tenderly and was about to slip the ring on my finger, I suddenly took a step back and set down my bridal bouquet. I'm sorry, Juzian, but I can't marry you. Years later, I returned to Hong Kong with my daughter and ran into Juzian again. He gazed at my daughter, looking lost in thought. Annan, she looks so much like you. She's adorable, and so pretty. I smiled sweetly. Really, I think she takes after my husband more. In the garden under the night sky. It was so quiet you could hear the faint chirping of insects. I was holding a few freshly picked roses in my hand, just about to go upstairs. Then, I heard a conversation not far away. Xian, have you really decided to marry Shirin and give up on Yao Yao for good? Hearing my own name, I instinctively stopped in my tracks and looked up. Two figures stood on the balcony, and one of them was very familiar to me, my fiancé, Ju Xian. Tomorrow, he would become my husband. Under the deep blue night sky, his arm rested casually on the railing, yet, his handsome face seemed clouded by a lingering, inescapable melancholy. Shirin is very sweet and well-behaved, just the right kind of girl to marry and bring home as a wife. That's all. At this point, he lightly flicked the ash from his cigarette and smiled at the friend beside him. As for Yao Yao, you know how it is. True, for you, if it's not Yao Yao, then it really doesn't matter who you marry, does it? The friend let out a sigh, as if feeling sorry for him. Ju Xian fell silent, lowering his head slightly as he smoked with a heavy air. The smoke was faint. Yet my vision blurred completely. The rose, still damp with dew, fell from my hand, its petals scattering in disarray. Over these past few years of on and off separation, I've been plagued by constant anxiety, never quite understanding why. So that's how it is. His heart was already taken. I turned around, the crimson hem of my dress swaying on the steps. Those who are not favored make even their most wretched exits in silence. 2. I gathered my skirt and began to walk faster and faster. As I rounded a corner past some potted plants, I nearly collided with someone coming the other way. Sorry, I quickly apologized, but upon seeing who it was, I instinctively straightened up and stood at attention. Brother, Shen Huaishu was dressed in a black business suit, with his secretary and assistant following not far behind. I was taken aback when I saw the briefcase in the secretary's hand. It looked like Shen Huaishu was leaving on business. But, my wedding is tomorrow, what's the rush? Shen Huaishu glanced at me, his tone as detached as ever. Nothing, I mumbled, lowering my head, unable to meet his gaze. From the day I was adopted by the Shen family at age 10, the person I feared most was this brother in name only. Go wait for me in the car, Shen Huaishu instructed. Only after everyone around us had left did he take a slow step toward me. And I, instinctively, took a step back. I instinctively recoiled, and Shen Huaishu halted his steps, raising a hand to adjust his glasses. The night was deep and dark, making it nearly impossible for me to discern his expression. All I could see was the cold, chilling glint of light refracted from his lenses. Brother, are you going on a business trip? Something's come up in Beijing. But, my wedding is tomorrow. A pang of urgency hit me, and I instinctively grabbed his sleeve. Aren't you coming to my wedding, brother? Shen Huaishu's lips curved into a smile, one tinged with self-mockery and bitterness. Shirin, you and I. We're not related by blood, in other words, you're not that important. I froze, my fingers going slack, my face turning deathly pale. Yes, I've known since I was a child that I was adopted by the Shen family. I call Shen Huaishu brother, but he only has one real sister. If it were her wedding, Shen Huaishu would never miss it. I'm just an adopted daughter. The fact that Shen Huaishu agreed to attend the pre-wedding family dinner is already a huge favor to me. I've had your wedding gift placed on the dresser in your bedroom, and, congratulations on your wedding, little sister. After Shen Huaishu finished speaking, he left without so much as another glance in my direction, but inside, it felt like a muffled thunderclap had gone off in my heart. From the time I turned 18 until now, a full 6 years have passed. This was the first time in 6 years that Shen Huaishu had called me little sister. 3. I spent 22 years being the perfect, obedient girl. After being orphaned at 10 and adopted by my father's close friend, Shen Shijiao, The very first thing I learned was to be docile and compliant. I dutifully attended the most prestigious girls' school in Hong Kong, and dutifully followed Uncle Shen's advice to study jewelry design. I dutifully kept my long, straight black hair and always wore ladylike dresses. The word I said most often was always, yes, but now, I'm about to do the most rebellious, most reckless thing I've done in all my 22 years. My wedding to Zhu Ziyan will begin promptly at 11 in the morning. I stood before Zhu Ziyan, dressed in a beautiful white wedding gown and holding my bridal bouquet. He gazed at me with his usual gentleness, so tenderly that it was impossible not to be fooled, as if he truly loved me. "Shiren, will you take Zhu Ziyan to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The officiant's voice rang out. Zhu Ziyan held the ring, looking at me with a smile as he waited for my nod. All the guests fell silent, waiting for the groom to place the wedding band on his bride's finger. But then, I suddenly took a step back. I set down the bridal bouquet in my hands. "I'm sorry, Zhu Ziyan, but I won't marry you." My voice was soft, yet every word was perfectly clear. A profound silence fell over the hall, so deep you could hear the wind rustling through the treetops. Zhu Ziyan's face was a picture of stunned disbelief. "Shiren, don't be ridiculous." I didn't say a word. I just bent down, gathered up the long, elaborate train of my dress, turned, and walked off the stage. 11:30 p.m. Beijing time. The secretary pushed open the door to Shen Huaishu's office, visibly flustered and on edge. "Mr. Shen, we've just received news from Hong Kong." "Go on." "There's been a bit of an incident at Miss Shiren and Mr. Zhu's wedding." Shen Huaishu's pen stilled in his hand. He looked up, his eyes dark and cold. "What kind of accident?" "It's like this, Mr. Shen. Miss Shiren, she called off the wedding, right there at the altar." "What did you say?" Shen Huaishu abruptly stood up. The emotion in his eyes wasn't so much shock, but rather, utter disbelief. The secretary hurriedly recounted the entire incident. After listening, Shen Huaishu's first question was, "Where is Shiren now? How did the Zhu family react? Did the old man give her a hard time?" "We only know that Miss Shiren changed her clothes and left. The Zhu family is quite upset. As for your father, he's temporarily refusing all visitors. He says he won't see anyone. Get the private jet ready immediately." Shen Huaishu grabbed his suit jacket and headed out. "We take off in half an hour. We're going back to Hong Kong." "Yes, Mr. Shen." His secretary hurried after him, discreetly wiping the sweat from his brow. It seemed his gamble had paid off when it came to anything concerning Miss Shiren. No matter how ill-mannered he was, Mr. Shen would always let it slide. 5. I stood outside Uncle Shen's study for a long time, but he never received me. In the end, it was Mrs. Shen who had someone summon me. She is the wife Uncle Shen married later, not yet 40 years old. After marrying into the family, she gave birth to a son and a daughter, both already in elementary school, which can be said to have solidified her position. "Madam, you were looking for me." Before I could even finish my sentence, a slap had already landed on my face. "No father, no mother, no wonder you have no manners," she sneered at me. "Do you have any idea how much you've shamed the Shen family today? I'll face the consequences of my own actions." I touched my stinging cheek, a fire burning in my chest. I was orphaned at 10. The Shen family took me in, and Uncle and Aunt Shen raised me with the utmost care. When you say I have no upbringing, are you accusing Uncle Shen and the late Aunt Shen of failing to teach me properly? Or are you saying that since you married into this family, you have neglected your duties and responsibilities as an elder? I have nothing more to say. If I owe anyone an apology, it's only to the Shen family, to Uncle Shen and to Aunt Shen, who has always been so kind to me. Shiren, think carefully. If you break off the engagement with Zhu Ziyan, do you really think you can find a better match than the Zhu family? Then I simply won't marry anyone. You needn't trouble yourself with my affairs. I spent the entire afternoon at my parents' gravesite. I have no regrets about the decision I made today, because I know all too well that if I had gone to Uncle Shen last night to discuss calling off the wedding, there would have been only one outcome. I would have done exactly as I have countless times before. The moment an elder showed the slightest hint of difficulty, I would have swallowed my feelings and given in. But this is a matter of marriage. It's about my lifelong happiness. I have no choice but to force myself into a corner, for only then can I find a way out. Father, mother, in the 12 years since your daughter came to the Shen family, this is the first time I've been disobedient, broken the rules. disregarded the greater good, and cast aside propriety. Will you think me foolish and immature? On the tombstone, my parents simply gaze at me with gentle, accepting smiles. They will never again be able to be there for their precious daughter in her moments of greatest need and vulnerability, to stand by her side, hold her, and comfort her. 6. It was already 10 at night when I got back to my little place. I stepped out of the elevator and unlocked the door with my fingerprint. The moment the door swung open, I caught a faint whiff of cigarette smoke. The living room, which should have been empty, now held an unexpected presence. The night was deep and still. Beyond the window glittered a tapestry of brilliant city lights. Shen Huaishu sat motionless on the sofa, his dark business suit precise and solemn. It only accentuated an aloof, unapproachable chill that seemed to radiate from him. "Brother," I whispered, my voice trembling, fear already leaving my limbs weak and unsteady. Word of what happened at the wedding must have already reached him. By humiliating the Shen family like that, it's only natural that Shen Huaishu, as the heir, would be furious. Shen Huaishu stood up and reached to take off his glasses. I instinctively backed away until my back was pressed against the door, with nowhere left to retreat. By the time Shen Huaishu stood before me, I was already on the verge of tears from fright. "Brother," I called out to him, my voice trembling, instinctively wanting to plead with him as I did in my youth. But Shen Huaishu spoke first. "Why did you call off the engagement? I don't like him, I don't want to marry him." "Shirin, are you sure about this?" I nodded firmly. "Yes, I've made up my mind, my decision is final." "What if he comes back and sweet talks you like he used to?" Shen Huaishu stared at me intently, his handsome face, now veiled in a layer of frost, seemed utterly unattainable. I slowly averted my gaze. "No, no to what? Be clear. I won't be appeased, I won't look back, and I certainly won't marry him." "Do you still have feelings for him?" I paused for a moment. Did I like him? Perhaps there was a fleeting fondness once, but it was mostly because my elders thought he was a good match for me, so I just nodded in compliance and ended up with Zhu Ziyan. But after hearing those words last night, even that faint, long-ago trace of affection has completely vanished. After all, I've long grown accustomed to being chosen, and then being let go. "I don't like you anymore." "Are you sure you don't like me anymore?" I lifted my slightly reddened eyes, a mix of hurt and resolve in my voice. "I'm sure, I don't like you anymore, and I never will again." "All right." Shen Huaishu gave a slight nod, then suddenly raised his hand and gently took hold of my chin. "Shirin," as I stood there, stunned and about to push him away, Shen Huaishu lowered his head and gave me a fleeting, butterfly-light kiss. "Will you marry me?" 7. My mind went completely blank. I stood there, dazed, in front of the bathroom mirror for half an hour, still unable to process it. "Shirin, are you ready?" Shen Huaishu stood outside the door and knocked. I answered in a fluster, then mustered my courage and opened the door. "Brother." At some point, he had taken off his suit jacket, undone the top 2 buttons of his shirt, and loosened his tie. It actually gave off a rather casual and relaxed vibe. I glanced at him and then looked down. Usually, I see him in a businesslike style, serious and stiff. This was the first time I'd ever seen him like this. "Have you made up your mind?" Perhaps it was the low timbre of his voice, but it always carried a gentle undertone. I pressed a hand over my wildly thumping heart, lowered my lashes, and replied in a voice barely above a whisper, "Not yet." Shen Huaishu glanced at his watch. "How much longer do you need?" Clutching the fabric over my heart, I mustered my courage and looked up at him. "Do we have to decide tonight? Is it a difficult decision?" Why what? Why would you marry me? Why do you think a man would want to marry a woman?" "How should I know?" Shen Huaishu had always been inscrutable, his emotions never showing on his face. "I've been afraid of him since I was a child. When I was 16, a senior in his final year of high school pursued me by writing me love letters. I couldn't keep refusing, so I ended up having a meal and a bubble tea with him. When I got home, the housekeeper immediately took me to Shen Huaishu's study, an afternoon of detention and a 3,000-word letter of apology. That effectively put an end to any possibility of a teenage romance. From then on, I avoided him whenever I saw him, knowing full well I was afraid of him. He still proposed marriage. That would be like living under his constant watch, no different from a prison sentence. "Brother, I know publicly breaking off the engagement was terribly wrong, but you can't punish me like this." "Punish you?" Shen Huaishu let out a laugh that seemed equal parts exasperation and amusement. Shuren, I don't have time for games. Give me your answer by 9 tomorrow morning. You won't have to wait that long. Brother, I must be possessed. A lifetime's worth of defiance has all come to a head today. Shen Huaishu raised a brow slightly, waiting for me to speak. I clenched my jaw hard, but in the end, I still didn't dare to meet his gaze. I can give you my answer right now. Go on, I don't want to marry you, and in the future, I don't plan on getting married at all. Shen Huaishu's gaze was dark and heavy as he looked at me. In that moment, I was so terrified my heart clenched tight. But he didn't say a word, he just turned around, picked up his suit jacket, and left without another glance. Only when I heard the door click shut did I finally lift my head. The room was empty and silent once more. I was all alone. No one else in this world will ever know. The truth is, I had a secret crush on Shen Huaishu. What girl wouldn't like him? I know my place. Let alone someone like Shen Huaishu, a true golden child, the undisputed crown prince of Hong Kong. How could he ever be interested in a foster girl living under someone else's roof? 8. The atmosphere in the study was thick with tension. Uncle Shen's face was dark with displeasure, while Madame Shen sat rigidly upright, a cold, mocking smile playing distinctly at the corners of her lips. The other elders of the Shen family were also present, each wearing an expression of clear dissatisfaction. Shuren, regarding that incident the other day, I'll simply treat it as a childish prank. Xian and I have discussed it. You will go to the Zhu family, apologize to the elders, and we'll consider the matter closed. To the outside world, we'll say you fell suddenly ill that day. The wedding will be rescheduled. I looked at Uncle Shen. Zhu Xian agreed to this. Of course. Uncle Shen's face turned cold towards me for the first time. Shuren, you've been acting out. Yet Xian has chosen to be understanding. Where else are you going to find a man that good? The child is grown up now, with higher standards and ambitions. We're not her real parents. After all, it's not our place to interfere. Aunt Shen spoke with a sarcastic tone, and Uncle Shen did nothing to stop her. Uncle Shen, I deeply apologize for bringing shame upon the Shen family and causing you and the elders such distress. I rose slowly to my feet. Even in this first act of such willful defiance, my back was damp with cold sweat. But this time, I am not acting recklessly. Shuren, what do you mean by that? It's over between Zhu Xian and me. His heart belongs to another woman. Marrying me would just be settling for second best. I know that with his background and status, marrying Zhu Xian would be marrying above my station. But marriage is a lifelong commitment. If I marry, it will only be to a man who loves me wholeheartedly. If I truly cannot find the right person, then I would rather never marry. Shuren, how am I supposed to explain this to your parents? Uncle Shen was clearly angered by my words. I promised them I would raise you well and find you a good husband. I have always held your kindness and care for me all these years close to my heart. You and Aunt Shen have never treated me poorly. If my parents knew, they would only be grateful. As for a good husband, you can just assume I, Shuren, wasn't blessed with that kind of luck. We're just meddling in other people's business, and getting no thanks for our good intentions. Madame Shen gave a mocking smile. Who knows, maybe she's managed to latch onto a more influential branch of the family tree. I heard that on the wedding day, the eldest young master was in Beijing, and he chartered a private jet back to Hong Kong just for the occasion. Lady Shen said, turning to look at Uncle Shen, come to think of it. The young master and our Miss Shuren grew up together, spending all that time in each other's company. It's only natural for feelings beyond mere sibling affection to develop. Madam, I interjected in a low, firm voice. Please, mind your words. What is Shen Huaishu's status? He is the undisputed heir apparent of the Shen family in Hong Kong, a figure at the very pinnacle of society. His life's record must remain spotless, especially regarding his relationship with his nominal younger sister. In my heart, he will always be my brother, closer to me than a blood brother could ever be. Brother has always seen me as a younger sister. Uncle Shen, you must be well aware of this. Over the years, I've been focused on my studies, and with his official duties keeping him so busy, we barely see each other a handful of times a year, and whenever we do meet, there are always elders present. As for any feelings beyond that of siblings, as you suggested, that is absolutely impossible. Shuren is right, between Huaishu and her, it is nothing more than an ordinary brother-sister relationship. Uncle Shen shot a glance at his wife. Enough of that nonsense. Madame Shen let out a light laugh and settled herself gracefully into a chair. Well, the innocent have nothing to fear, Uncle Shen. I finally made up my mind, Uncle Shen. To be honest, I've wanted to study abroad for years now, Shuren. I can't help but worry about a young woman like you being overseas all alone. Uncle Shen, please, just this once, grant me your permission. 9. Honestly, if I stay in Hong Kong, I really don't know how I'll face Shen Huaishu. What happened that night felt so surreal, just like a dream. After leaving that night, Shen Huaishu immediately took a red-eye flight back to Beijing. He still hasn't returned to this day, so, the reason he dropped everything in Beijing and rushed back to Hong Kong that day, was it really because of me, Shuren? Zhu Xian's sudden appearance snapped me out of my thoughts. I looked up at him. He seemed a bit thinner than before, with a weary, haggard look about him. Uncle Shen says you want to study abroad. Yes, just running off like that. Don't you think you're being incredibly selfish and irresponsible? I find it rather amusing when I think about that girl they call Yao Yao. It dawns on me that I only landed this marriage because I bear a slight resemblance to her. I certainly never intended for things to turn out this way, leaving both families in such an awkward position. If anyone's to blame, it's Zhu Xian for keeping it all under wraps so tightly that I only found out the truth the night before the wedding. If I had known earlier, it would have been best for us to call off the engagement amicably, but there are no IFS, given how things have turned out. There's no way I can go back now. Do I look a lot like Yao Yao? Shuren, when did you find out? Zhu Xian was taken aback. The night before our wedding. I overheard you chatting with your friend by chance. I looked at him calmly. I think if you truly love her, you shouldn't just marry someone you don't love. It's not fair to her, and it's not fair to me, Shuren. You've got it wrong, I admit. Yao Yao was my first love, and I did love her deeply once, but there's no future for us anymore. A flicker of anguish passed through Zhu Xian's eyes. I knew all too well that if Yao Yao came back for him now, or if there was any chance of reconciliation between them, Zhu Xian would end the engagement without a moment's hesitation. He only agreed to marry me because he thought there was no hope left for him and Yao Yao. Zhu Xian, I'm so sorry. I turned to leave. But Zhu Xian suddenly stepped forward and tightly grasped my wrist. Shuren, if I've caused any misunderstanding because of Yao Yao, I apologize to you. However, marriage is a significant matter for both our families. I don't want you to make things difficult for our elders out of a moment's anger. Also, I hope you can calm down and think this through carefully. Anan, you are only Uncle Shen's adopted daughter. The Shen family's protection for you has its limits. You'll have to get married eventually. After all this scandal, do you really think anyone in Hong Kong would dare to marry you? Anan, I promise you, I will be a good husband. As for Yao Yao, I've completely let her go. From now on, that person, that name, will never come between us again. 10. I tried to pull my hand back, but Zhu Xian's grip was simply too strong. Let go of me. But Zhu Xian refused to release his grip, even pulling me closer to him. Shuren, she told you to let go. Are you deaf? A deep, icy male voice suddenly came from behind. I turned on instinct, only to meet Shen Huaishu's furious gaze head-on. Zhu Xian hastily let go. Big brother. Shen Huaishu didn't even spare him a glance from the corner of his eye. He took 2 steps forward, reached out, and grasped my wrist, pulling me to stand before him. Getting bullied in your own home, is that all you're made of? I hung my head, stammering and unable to get a word out. Shen Huaishu pulled me behind him. His face cold. Your engagement to Shuren is hereby called off. Big brother. Zhu Xian tried to speak further, but Shen Huaishu cut him off directly. Even if Xian isn't my biological sister, she was raised in the Shen family. Her wishes will be respected by both my father and me. As for the losses to you and the Zhu family, we will naturally provide compensation. That's not what I meant. Big brother, I truly wish to marry Xian, but she doesn't want to marry you. Shen Huaishu gave Zhu Xian a cold look. One more thing, your Yao Yao is coming back to the country. Zhu Xian was visibly stunned. Shen Huaishu took my hand and turned to leave. I had walked a long way, but I couldn't help glancing back at Zhu Xian one more time. What's the matter? Can't bear to leave him. Shen Huaishu's voice sounded even colder than before. I shook my head. It just feels ridiculous. What's ridiculous? He was just lying to me, saying he was over Yao Yao. But look. You only told him that Yao Yao returned to the country, and he's become a complete wreck, feeling down, a little bit. Shen Huaishu suddenly let out a cold snort and released my hand. 11. It's not that I'm upset Zhu Ziyan has someone he truly loves, I'm just upset that in my whole life, I've only had this one relationship, and yet, I was just used as a substitute. I looked up at Shen Huaishu. Brother, am I really that terrible? Is there truly no one who could like me, just for who I am? The moment my tears fell, Shen Huaishu gently cupped my face and brushed away the moisture gathering at the corner of my eye. You're wonderful, don't be so hard on yourself. He was about to say more, but I gently pushed his hand away, cutting him off. Brother, Uncle Shen has agreed to let me go abroad to study. I'm planning to leave next week. I won't be coming back to Hong Kong for at least a year. Shen Huaishu looked at me calmly, lighting a cigarette. So it's decided. Which country are you planning to go to? Switzerland. He nodded, flicked the ash from his cigarette, and said, not bad. I wasn't quite sure what Shen Huaishu meant by that final not bad, but for the entire week that followed, I didn't see him again. With the marriage arrangement to the Zhu family completely severed, I packed my bags and prepared to leave. On the day I went to the airport, it was the Shen family's driver who took me. Most of the Shen family were present. But Shen Huaishu was nowhere to be seen. I got into the car and gazed out through the window. The familiar home and the familiar family are all gradually fading away from me. I don't feel much nostalgia or reluctance. It's just that at this moment of final departure, I've left the past, Shuren, and a little secret behind, forever remaining with the Shen family in Harbor City. That's all. 12. The Shen family's driver drove very smoothly. I fell asleep without realizing it on the way to the airport. Miss Shuren, please wake up. We've arrived at the airport. The driver had to call my name twice before I groggily opened my eyes. Are we here already? I stared out the car window, feeling somewhat dazed. I've been to the airport in Hong Kong City many times, and it was never like this. Miss Shuren, we've arrived. Please step out of the car. Uncle Lin, where have you brought me? This isn't the airport I was supposed to go to. There's no mistake, Miss Shuren. This is the young master's private airfield. My brother's. Yes, the young master has the private jet ready. Please, step out of the car first. The driver opened the car door, but I refused to get out. Uncle Lin, please, just take me away from here. If we leave now, there's still time to make it. Miss Shuren, please don't put me in this difficult position. You know how the young master is. I sat there in a daze for a long while before finally getting out of the car. Someone came over and helped me with my luggage. As I boarded the aircraft via the airstairs, I spotted Shen Huaishu right away, sitting upright on the sofa and attending to official business. He saw me, gestured with a raised hand towards the empty seat beside him for me to sit, and then promptly returned to his work. I shuffled over slowly and still ended up taking the seat farthest from him. Shen Huaishu just glanced at me, said nothing, and refocused on his work. After the cabin crew stowed the luggage and completed all the pre-flight preparations, the plane was ready for takeoff. Shen Huaishu closed his laptop, stretched his slightly stiff neck, and only then did he stand up. Care for a drink? He picked up a bottle of red wine and just naturally sat down beside me. I'm a lightweight. By the second glass, I was already feeling a bit tipsy. The plane hit a bit of turbulence during the flight, giving us a slight bump. Careful. Shen Huaishu reached out to steady me. Dizzy and disoriented, I practically collapsed into his arms. Gidge, I instinctively tried to push him away, but my arms felt weak and limp. Who was your secret crush when you were 16? Shen Huaishu's sudden question left me utterly stunned and at a loss. I get very compliant when I'm drunk, answering whatever I'm asked, but the Shen family has kept me on a tight leash all these years, so I rarely get the chance to drink. I thought for a long moment before answering honestly. Shen Huaishu, why didn't you tell him? I'm afraid of him. Why are you afraid of him? You're way too strict with me. Always making me write a 3,000-word self-criticism essay for the slightest thing. I'm not allowed to date in high school. If they found out, I'd definitely be grounded again. Shen Huaishu brushed aside the stray hairs on my forehead, looking down at me. Not allowing you to date young is for your own good. Do you really think those boys chasing after you have good intentions? Brother, I feel as if I've fallen into a dream. Otherwise, why would Shen Huaishu be speaking to me so gently? Am I dreaming? Why aren't you cold at all anymore? Am I being cold to you? Yeah, you haven't even cracked a smile. How about this? Then, what, brother? But my lips were sealed as Shen Huaishu kissed me, then raised a hand to gently cover my eyes. 13. Before that long, tender kiss could even end, I drifted into a heavy, drowsy sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was already in comfortable sleepwear, lying on a soft, spacious bed. Shun Huaishu was on the phone, speaking in a low voice with his earbuds in. I lay perfectly still, listening in secret. There's no need to arrange any more blind dates for me. I already have plans regarding marriage. As for who my wife is, you know her well. There's no need to worry about her background or character. We'll get the marriage registered abroad first, and then, once she finishes her studies, we'll come back to Hong Kong for the wedding ceremony. As soon as the call ended, I quickly shut my eyes and pretended to be asleep. The soft rustle of footsteps drew closer to the bedside, and my heart began to race. You're awake. Come on, have some water. Shun Huaishu leaned over and scooped me right out of the blankets. My face flushed hot, and I averted my eyes, not daring to meet his gaze. He handed me the water. Does your head hurt? It doesn't hurt, I said meekly, lowering my head to take a sip of water. I was about to get out of bed to put the empty glass away myself, but he naturally took it from me. What would you like to eat? Anything is fine, really. After finalizing the meal order, Shun Huaishu said to me casually, once we land and get to the place, gather up your documents and give them to me. What are you trying to do? Shun Huaishu sat on the sofa, adjusting his glasses with a hand. Didn't you just hear everything while eavesdropping on my phone call? I didn't. Shun Huaishu seemed to be in a good mood, letting out a low, amused chuckle. Then I might as well say it again. Stop. Just stop. I yanked the quilt up and buried my face in it. Brother, give me some time, okay? Let me think this through properly. 14. Shun Huaishu returned to Hong Kong the second week after I had settled in Switzerland. I never gave him an answer, right up until he left. To be honest, my mind was in complete turmoil. I was already 10 when I came to the Shun family. While still young, I was no longer an ignorant child. Even if I did have a secret crush on Shun Huaishu, I had clearly warned myself countless times. The two of us were simply not a match. If my parents were still alive, there might have been a sliver of possibility. But now, living under someone else's roof, even if the Shun family treats me like their own daughter, I can't be so ungrateful as to harbor ambitions of climbing the social ladder. I just never expected such a turn of events. The fiancé I devoted myself to wholeheartedly was in love with another woman all along, and I was merely a laughable stand-in. What's even more surprising is that, from the wedding until now, everything Shun Huaishu has done and every word he has said has completely defied my expectations. It's only now, after all this time, that I've finally dared to wonder in the quiet of my own heart. Shun Huaishu, could it be that he has some feelings for me? 15. The second week after Shun Huaishu left, I unexpectedly ran into Zhu Ziyan in Switzerland. He came alone. He came specifically to see me. A guest from afar is always welcome. So I bought him a cup of coffee. Shuran. What I'm about to say might sound a little ridiculous, but I still need to tell you. Zhu Ziyan set down his coffee and looked at me, his expression tinged with melancholy. Yao Yao returned to the country a while ago, and we met up. Her husband hasn't treated her well these past couple of years. She's already planning to divorce him. Isn't that good news for you? Zhu Ziyan gave a bitter smile and shook his head gently. Perhaps time has changed everything. My feelings for her. It's as if they've long since turned into an obsession. She's still very beautiful, but whenever I'm with her, my mind inexplicably wanders. Shuran, I often think of you. I often think back to the times we used to go on dates. Yao Yao has noticed that something's off with me. Shuran, it feels like my heart has changed. I glanced at my watch and stood up. I'm sorry. I have a class this afternoon. Zhu Ziyan gently took my hand. Shuran, let's start over, okay? I shook my head and pushed his hand away. Zhu Ziyan, I'm truly sorry, but I don't have feelings for you anymore. Shuran. He stood up and hurried out of the cafe, but he came to an abrupt halt when he saw the car across the street and the man standing beside it. Shun Huaishu was leaning against the car, dressed in a charcoal grey British-style suit. The moment he saw Shuran, he stubbed out his cigarette. Zhu Ziyan saw that pair of eyes belonging to Shun Huaishu, eyes that always held an air of indifference and detachment, yet now, as they gazed at Shuran, they held a trace of tenderness so faint it was almost imperceptible. Turning his attention to Shuran, he saw her cross the street cheerfully, backpack slung over her shoulders, breaking into a light jog as she made her way to stand before Shun Huaishu. Zhu Ziyan watched as Shuran tilted her head back to look up at Shun Huaishu. When she smiled, her eyes curved into crescents. Actually, it wasn't really like Yaoiro's. In fact, a long time ago, when they had just gotten together, she used to look at him and smile just like that. But at some point, her smiles began to grow fewer and farther between. And now, a smile like that only ever appears for another man. As they finally left, Shen Huaishu seemed to glance in the direction where he was standing. Then, he took Shiren by the hand and led her into the car, and Shiren, from beginning to end, never once looked back. 16. Not long after meeting Zhu Zian, I was surprised to receive a call from Uncle Shen. He said he was on a business trip abroad and would be transiting through Switzerland the next day, and wanted to come see me. The following day, I arrived at the house Uncle Shen had mentioned. As agreed, Uncle Shen's gaze, however, was uncharacteristically cold and stern as he looked at me. Shiren, back then, out of respect for the bond one shared with your late father, I took you in. The Shen family hasn't treated you poorly all these years, has it? You should know that Huaishu is my most prized and trusted son, but he is not my only son. While neither the Shen family nor he needs a marriage alliance to advance further, the choice of his wife is still a matter that must be considered with the utmost care. Uncle Shen, please, speak your mind. Shiren. You've always been such a good, obedient girl. I care for you deeply and have always had complete faith in you. For some time now, Xian has been pleading with me. He still wishes to marry you. To have a man so devoted and earnest is a great blessing. Shiren, in this matter, I will make the decision for you. You were engaged. If you hadn't made a scene at the wedding, you'd be Mrs. Zhu by now. As for anything else, don't even think about it. Just focus on being with Xian. With that, he stood up and made to leave. I tried to follow him out, but someone stopped me. Miss Xian, please wait a moment. Mr. Zhu will be here shortly. What is he doing here? Mr. Shen said that tonight will serve as your belated wedding night. I don't agree. Let me out. I want to leave. Miss Xian, I'm afraid you don't have a choice this time. The water you drank when you came in will ensure your cooperation. 17. I quickly became aware of the strange sensation in my body. This strange sensation filled me with a panic I was utterly powerless to stop. As I slumped on the sofa, I uncontrollably tore open the front of my clothes. Suddenly, the door was violently kicked in from the outside. My consciousness was in complete disarray. I didn't even have the strength to open my eyes. Then, I fell completely into a cool embrace. I caught a familiar scent. It was a fragrance etched in my heart since I first came to the Shen family at age 10. Brother, I murmured incoherently. My damp fingers fumbling to clutch at his sleeve, only to slip away weakly. Shen Huaishu's slender fingers, however, closed tightly around my hand at just the right moment. Anan, Big Brother is taking you home. 18. The dream I secretly harbored at 16 seemed to suddenly come true at the tail end of 22. Truth be told, I was already mostly awake by the middle of it, but Shen Huaishu didn't seem to know. He was always exceptionally gentle when he kissed me. I love it when he treats me so tenderly. In the height of my passion, I pretended to still be dazed, murmuring his name. Brother, do you like Anan? Shen Huaishu's movements faltered slightly. A moment later, he suddenly became more forceful. A low, husky murmur reached my ear just as I couldn't suppress a soft moan. I love it. 19. On the first day of being 23, my birthday gifts were a marriage certificate and a massive, brilliantly sparkling engagement ring. There's an unwritten rule in Hong Kong: a marriage isn't considered official until there's a wedding ceremony and a banquet. Shen Huaishu really wants to take me back to Hong Kong for a wedding. It's just that my studies here won't finish for another 2 months. Honestly, I'm not too keen on going back to face the Shen family and everyone in that social circle. Ever since Shen Huaishu barged in and took me away that night, he and his father, Mr. Shen, have had a complete falling out. However, Shen Huaishu himself has numerous businesses in his own name and substantial personal wealth, so even cut off from the family, he remains a force to be reckoned with. Uncle Shen was initially furious, threatening to disown him and sever all ties, yet Shen Huaishu remained unmoved, even going so far as to move to Switzerland to accompany me in my studies. However, after Shen Huaishu washed his hands of the Shen Group's affairs, chaos of varying scales began to erupt within the corporation. The stock price plummeted, evaporating billions in market value overnight, but Shen Huaishu proved remarkably composed. No matter how many senior executives, elders, or board members flew to Switzerland to personally plead for his return to steer the ship, he held his ground. He turned them all down. It wasn't until the end, when the utterly desperate Uncle Shen finally swallowed his pride and called him, Shen Huaishu made only one demand. As long as the Shen family accepts Xuan as their daughter-in-law, then everything is negotiable, otherwise, there's nothing to discuss. Uncle Shen was so infuriated by his attitude that he slammed the phone down on the spot, but when he called again the next day, he relented. All right, fine. We've raised her as our own daughter since she was little anyway. If you're truly set on marrying her, then go ahead and do it. 20. Shen Huaishu and I didn't rush back to Hong Kong for our wedding right away, because after I finished my studies, we found out I was 2 months pregnant. I had a difficult pregnancy and was sick with morning sickness the entire time. Shen Huaishu tried everything he could think of, but nothing helped much. The whole ordeal left him looking noticeably thinner. The wedding plans had to be postponed again and again. Unpleasant rumors began to circulate in Hong Kong. It was later discovered that these rumors were connected to Madame Shen. Shen Huaishu made a trip back to Hong Kong. I have no idea how he managed it, but 3 months later, news suddenly came from Hong Kong City. Uncle Shen and Madame Shen got divorced, and it was a rather ugly split. Uncle Shen even slapped her 3 times. When Madame Shen left the Shen family in tears, the clear imprint of 5 fingers was still visible on her face. Every servant in the household saw it. And the news spread across Hong Kong overnight. On the night Shen Huaishu returned to Switzerland, he gave me the usual warm compress and leg massage. I started swelling during my 2nd trimester, and none of my old shoes fit anymore. He was unusually quiet, not trying to cheer me up like he usually did. I couldn't help but whisper, "Brother, are you upset?" Shuren. He put down the towel and washed his hands. In the lamplight, he looked at me with slightly reddened eyes. "Why didn't you tell me she slapped you back then?" I froze, a sudden, overwhelming pang of sourness swelling in my chest. "Brother, it's all in the past now." I tried to comfort him. But it didn't seem to help. Who does she think she is? What gives her the right to lay a hand on someone of mine? "Brother, please don't be angry. It really doesn't hurt. You came to the Shen family when you were 10, even at my strictest. The worst I ever did was ground you. I couldn't bear to lay a finger on you." His eyes were rimmed with red, as if he was truly furious, his voice trembling slightly at the end. "Brother, I know you care for me, worry about me, and are good to me. I know all of it." I held him gently, stroking his back in a soothing rhythm. "With you by my side now, no one will ever dare to bully me again. I really was too reckless back then. Getting slapped was nothing compared to what I deserved. You can be as reckless as you want, Annan. By my side, you're free to do anything. All right, but you must promise you won't get tired of me in the future." "Of course not." Shen Huaishu held me gently and caressed my rounded belly. "Has our little girl been behaving these past few days? Has she been giving you any trouble?" The baby hadn't been born yet, but Shen Huaishu, who was already determined to be a doting father to a daughter, was convinced it was a girl. "She's been very good, hasn't troubled me at all. She looks just like you." "Well, she's my daughter, of course she takes after me the most." 21. But when the baby was born and her features started to develop, everyone who saw her was amazed at how strikingly she resembled Shen Huaishu. If it weren't for the eyebrows and little mouth that look like mine, the baby would be the spitting image of Shen Huaishu. After seeing the baby on video, Uncle Shen fell head over heels in love and has been pestering us daily to hurry back to Hong Kong. If he weren't in poor health these days and couldn't handle a long flight, he would have flown to Switzerland himself long ago. Because my health wasn't great during the pregnancy, Shen Huaishu insisted I take a full 3 months to recover after giving birth. It wasn't until the doctor personally assured him that I was in perfect health that Shen Huaishu began making arrangements to take us, mother and daughter, back to Hong Kong. Shen Huaishu himself traveled between Hong Kong and Switzerland, rarely making a show of using his private jet, but this time, for our return, he made a grand spectacle of it, as if announcing it to the whole world. On the plane, the baby fell asleep. Shen Huaishu suddenly said to me, "Last year, Zhu Ziyan and Yao Yao got married." I just said oh, without even looking up. "They got a divorce by mutual agreement 6 months ago." I looked up in surprise. How could this happen? Shen Huaishu held my hand, playing with it for a long moment before saying, "What else? His body is here, but his heart is elsewhere." I couldn't help but laugh. Is that jealousy I smell? Shen Huaishu pulled me onto his lap. After the wedding, let's go back to Switzerland, that way. We won't have to deal with all those people in Hong Kong who keep thinking about you. It's irritating. I looked up and gave him a kiss, coaxing sweetly. I'll do whatever you say, dear. 22. On the eve of the wedding, while I was out shopping with my daughter, I unexpectedly ran into Zhu Ziyan. Shirin, you look. He looked me over carefully, his eyes filled with unconcealed admiration. You're even more beautiful than before. Thank you, I smiled, pressing my lips together, and handed the teething biscuit to the baby in the stroller. She gave me a big, toothy grin. It was impossibly adorable. Zhu Ziyan looked at her, feeling an indescribable sense of distraction. Anan, she looks just like you, so cute and so pretty. There's nothing a mother loves more than hearing others praise her child. I'm certainly no exception. The baby was born fair and adorable, and as she grew, she became even more exquisite, like a delicate porcelain doll. I've heard countless compliments, but I never tire of them. I couldn't help but bend down to kiss her little cheek, smiling sweetly. Really, I still think she looks more like my husband. I feel like you. Zhu Ziyan's voice was thick with bitterness. Anan, is he good to you? My smile grew even brighter. Mr. Zhu, that should be rather obvious, shouldn't it? Indeed, the happiness or unhappiness of a marriage is often written plainly on a woman's face. A happy marriage is more effective than the most expensive cosmetic procedure. My husband is here to pick us up. Goodbye, Mr. Zhu. I gave him a wave and pushed my daughter's stroller toward the car not far away. Shen Huaishu stepped out of the car and strode toward us. Honey, I called out with a smile. Waving and stopping in my tracks, he walked up to me, took the stroller with one hand and wrapped his other arm around my waist, right there on the bustling street, without a care for the crowd. He leaned down and gave me a gentle kiss. Our daughter babbles and waves her tiny hands from her stroller. This was a happiness I never dared to dream of. Now, it is held firmly and truly in my hands. The end. Story 2. My father was hit in a car accident. When we found the person responsible, my husband emerged from the passenger seat disheveled. I stayed in the hospital to take care of my father, but he stayed with the person responsible at the police station for investigation. I refused to mediate, and he picked up a thermos cup and smashed it hard on my head. She's a lawyer. Do you want to ruin her career? What's on your mind? I calmly wiped the blood from my head and looked at him, who was flustered and only then realized what he had done. This wasn't the first time he had cheated, but it was the most serious one. Suddenly, I remembered that in the 5th year of our marriage, he had grinned at me and spoken. Don't you think it's boring to sleep with only one person for the rest of your life? For the sake of fairness, I won't care how you play around either. What I give them is sex, but what I give you is love. Later, as he wished, I got together with the man he had personally sent to me, but then he begged me to come back home. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The blood kept flowing. Shen Huaichuan nervously took out a tissue and rushed in front of me. While wiping the blood, he frowned and said, "Why didn't you know how to dodge? Does it hurt?" "I didn't mean to. I was just in a hurry. Xiangwan is still young. She's a talented person. I just cherish her talent. Be obedient and let this matter go." I swatted his hand away and said firmly, "That's my father. Come on, your father just loves money. If you really want what's best for him, just take the money and end this matter." My face turned ugly. Just as I was about to speak again, his phone suddenly rang. "Mr. Shen, where are you? They've been interrogating me for a long time and won't even let me eat. I'm so hungry now that I'm dizzy and can't even stand up." Shen Huaichuan accidentally pressed the speakerphone, and Su Xiangwan's somewhat aggrieved voice came out of the receiver immediately. Upon hearing this, he tightly gripped his phone, looking worried. "You wait, I'll come back right now." After hanging up the phone, he focused his gaze and looked up at me again. "Dingli, I'm giving you one last chance. Will you sign this mediation agreement or not?" After getting my answer of refusal, Shen Huaichuan turned around and left without looking back. I've seen this kind of back view too many times over the years. Clearly, Shen Huaichuan and I weren't like this before. After graduating, I started working in the Shen family's company. Shen Huaichuan was the first apprentice I took on. At that time, no one in the company, including me, knew his true identity. He was intelligent, humorous, passionate, and energetic, But he inevitably made some mistakes at work, and it was always me who helped him clean up the mess. At a party, he drank some wine. Taking advantage of the alcohol, he forcefully kissed me. Ding Li, I like you. I don't want to be just your apprentice. I also want to be your boyfriend, and even more so, your husband. The smell of alcohol on his breath seemed to intoxicate me too. In a daze, I agreed to him. By the time I found out his identity, it was too late to escape. Shen Huaichuan loved me, and everyone knew it. For my sake, he replaced all the employees working on his floor with men. He would remember every day related to me, big or small, including the birthdays of my family members. Whatever I liked, even if I just glanced at it, he would take it to heart and secretly buy it for me. Others laughed at him, saying that a president of a big company was being controlled by a woman, but he didn't care at all. But no one expected that Shen Huaichuan, who loved me so much, would, in the 5th year of our marriage, tell me about his need for an open marriage. Shen Huaichuan wasn't asking. He was informing me, and Su Xiangwan, the person who hit my father, was his 44th lover after our marriage. Swallowing the bitterness in my throat, I wiped my father's body clean. He had specially come from our hometown to see me and Shen Huaichuan. Before the car accident, he was still carrying a lot of local specialties in his hands, but when I arrived, I only saw the mess on the ground and my father with blood on his face. Since the accident happened, this was the first time Shen Huaichuan had come to the hospital to visit him. Father, you're feeling much better, right? He put down the fruits in his hand and pretended to look concerned. I coldly got up and went out to get some water, not wanting to stand next to him. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him let out an inexplicable sigh of relief. When I came back, he tightly held my father's hand and expressed his gratitude. His red-rimmed eyes looked as if he had just been crying. Seeing me come back, he left in a hurry on the pretext of being busy with work matters. My father then tremblingly took my hand and said weakly to me, "Forget it. As long as you two young people can live a good life." I was puzzled and just thought that he had seen that Shen Huaichuan and I were having a conflict. It wasn't until I called the police officer handling the case that the other party said in surprise, "Didn't you say it was settled? Your father personally agreed to it." The veins on my forehead were throbbing wildly, and I was so angry that my whole body couldn't stop shaking, thinking of the day Shen Huaichuan came. Holding his phone tightly next to my father's ear, everything became clear without further explanation. The police let me listen to my father's recording and said with a helpless look, "It's your father's own voice, and there's also the signed settlement agreement. This can't be faked, right? Your family is really strange. One moment you want to pursue the case, and the next moment you don't, and your husband even helped the other side run around." The words suddenly stopped. I lowered my head and clenched my fists. Su Xiangwan transferred the compensation money to my phone according to the procedures. She gave a mischievous smile and stood close to me. After all, Huaichuan cares too much about me. I told him I had the money to pay the compensation, but he still insisted on transferring it to me again. I could hardly hold back and raised my hand. "Wife." Shen Huaichuan suddenly appeared and grabbed my hand with his big palm. He gave Su Xiangwan an angry glare and forcefully squeezed his hand into mine. "Wife, let's go back to the hospital to see father." Just as I was about to speak, Su Xiangwan, who was standing beside us, wasn't happy. She pouted at Shen Huaichuan. "Mr. Shen, I'm too stressed to drive now. Can you send me home?" Shen Huaichuan hesitated for only a second where he stood and then nodded at her. I let out a sneer, pulled my hand back, and turned to leave. On the way, I received a text message from Shen Huaichuan. "Wife, I'll be there later." But until it got dark, I still didn't see Shen Huaichuan at the hospital. My phone kept ringing. Afraid of disturbing my father's rest, I picked up the phone and went outside to the corridor. It was a call from Shen Huaichuan. As soon as I answered, there were instantly indescribable gasps coming from the receiver. "Little Wildcat, are you wearing the one I bought for you inside?" "Of course. I'm wearing it both on top and on the bottom." The continuous sounds coming from the phone were like countless needles stabbing at my heart. I had thought that I was already used to all this and that I had already let go of all my feelings for Shen Huaichuan, but when I faced this directly, the healed scars were torn open again, and blood flowed down. After my father was discharged from the hospital, he insisted on going back to our hometown. After seeing him off, I went back home. When I opened the door, there were still the leftovers from a few days ago on the dining table. Every corner of the house was hinting to me that Shen Huichuan hadn't come back during this period. I ignored the moldy and smelly food and went straight to the room to pack my luggage, but just as I reached the entrance, the door opened from the outside. "Who are you? Why did you break into my daughter's house?" A couple was standing outside the door, carrying luggage and holding keys. The woman's plump body pushed forward, looking angry. "Speak up quickly, if you don't, we'll call the police." I sneered and met her gaze. "Call the police? Fine, go ahead and call the police. I want to see who your daughter is and why you say my home is hers." The woman looked at me suspiciously, then went outside to take a look. "That's right, this is my daughter's house. Wife, stop talking. There must be a thief. Look, she's still holding a gift box in her hand, and it looks very expensive at first glance." The woman's gaze landed on the box in my hand, and she instantly flew into a rage. She rushed in front of me like a gust of wind and raised her palm high. Slap! She slapped me hard on the face, and her sharp nails scratched my face. "You shameless slut! You actually dared to steal the jewelry my son-in-law bought for my daughter. Do you know who my son-in-law is? He's the president of Fangyu Company. You dared to provoke the wrong person. You must be tired of living." My face was turned to one side by the slap, and a metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. Just as I was about to turn around, the man punched me in the abdomen, and then another punch came straight at my face. The woman kicked over my suitcase, and the things inside were thrown out by her forcefully. "I want to see what else you, the thief, have stolen from our house." "Don't touch my things," I gasped for breath, and the blood from the corner of my mouth dripped onto the ground. "Yo, you still dare to shout? Wife, call the security. This is supposed to be a high-end residential area, but they can't even keep a thief out. Old Sue, it's better to call our daughter and son-in-law quickly. They don't even know that there's a thief in the house." During the days when I took care of my father, I couldn't eat or sleep well, and I fell seriously ill. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have been so powerless to fight back against them. Seeing my embarrassed appearance, the couple laughed at me triumphantly. While waiting for Shen Huichuan, they started to fiddle with the things in the house. "Who bought this painting? It's so ugly. Let's throw it away." The man looked at the painting with disgust, picked it up, and was about to throw it outside. I suddenly widened my eyes. "Don't throw it away, you bitch, it's not your place to speak." The man stepped on my face with his foot, and the dirty and smelly sole rubbed back and forth on my face. "Don't throw it away," I said. "I'm the master of this house." I gritted my teeth. My face was numb and painful from the beating, and there was an obvious swelling. Even the words I said were slurred. "You must be crazy about getting rich. Do you think you have the same good luck as my daughter, to find a president as a husband? Look at yourself. Do you deserve it?" The next second, he coughed up a mouthful of thick phlegm and spat it on my face. "Ah, look at how dirty you are. If our son-in-law sees this later, it will leave a bad impression." The man pouted, stood up, and continued to carry the painting outside. I limped out, trying to chase after the painting. "You want it so much." The man touched his chin with one hand, and a mischievous smile flashed in his eyes. "Kneel down and beg me." I gritted my teeth. As long as he could return the painting to me. But he didn't keep his promise. Instead, he raised the painting high and smashed it hard on the ground. "No." I let out a cry of pain. The protective glass shattered with a crash. He picked up the painting inside and tore it to pieces with his hand. That was my grandmother's last painting before she passed away. She said she wanted to leave it to her future son-in-law. My grandmother was a famous painter, and one of her paintings was worth a fortune. I had no more strength left in my body, and I fell to the ground in despair. Suddenly, the headlights of a car not far away shone on me. "Wife." Shen Huichuan appeared in front of me looking anxious, and his eyes were full of concern when he looked at me. He raised his hand and carefully wiped my face with his clothes that cost tens of thousands of yuan. Not minding the dirt at all, he took me to the hospital. Throughout the treatment, I didn't say a word to him. On the contrary, he kept asking me worriedly. I lay in the hospital ward. Closing my eyes and resting, he thoughtfully called the family nutritionist to cook a meal and send it to the hospital for me overnight. He also found a professional treatment team to examine me. Before leaving, the nurse outside the door looked at me with envy. She almost praised me for being lucky right in front of me. I calmly took out my phone. "Hello, is this police office? I want to report a case. I was assaulted by someone." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and someone snatched the phone away and hung up the call forcefully. I looked up at Shen Huichuan. He pursed his lips and explained, "Wife, Xiangwan's house was burglarized, so it's not safe. Since you've been staying in the hospital with your father, I agreed to let her parents stay in that house first. As for the son-in-law they mentioned, it's completely untrue. I told Xiangwan a long time ago that my wife will only be you, Ding Li, and there won't be anyone else. I'm just having some fun with her. My heart is with you, and I will come back home. Xiangwan was wrong about this. I'll ask her to come and apologize to you. As for calling the police, I don't think it's necessary, right?" He was clearly taking Su Xiangwan's side in his words. I clenched my fists tightly and let out a bitter laugh. "Shen Huichuan, that's our home, but you let random people enter it. What do you take me for, since you can't bear to part with her and care about her so much? Why don't we just get a divorce? I'll make way for you too." My father was hit by Su Xiangwan, and he asked me to endure it and forgive her. I was humiliated by Su Xiangwan's parents, and he still asked me to endure it and forgive them. He panicked and came over to pull me. "I don't want a divorce. I love you so much. How could I possibly divorce you?" I said. "I'm just playing around with her." With a bang, the door was smashed open, and his words stopped abruptly. When Su Xiangwan saw me, she quickly stepped forward and knelt down in front of me. "Sister Ding Li, it's my fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Don't make things difficult for my parents. I'm begging you." Seeing this, Shen Huichuan quickly went to help her up. "What are you doing, Xiangwan? Don't worry, as long as I'm here, no one can make things difficult for your parents." Su Xiangwan hugged Shen Huichuan excitedly, and the look in her eyes when she looked at me was full of provocation. Before leaving, she asked Shen Huichuan to send her home on the pretext of being emotionally unstable. Su Xiangwan's repeated provocations completely drove me crazy. I called out to Shen Huichuan, who was about to go out. My eyes were red and filled with hatred. I gritted my teeth and shouted at him, "Shen Huichuan, I said I want a divorce from you." Shen Huichuan stood there, looking tired but not taking it seriously at all. He thought that, like before, I was using divorce to resist him. "Wife, Xiangwan is still young, and her ability to bear stress is weak. Don't take what she said and did to heart. I'll send her back first and then come back later." After Shen Huichuan left, I hung my head weakly, and tears streamed down from the corners of my eyes. In the middle of the night, I was in a drowsy and confused sleep. I felt so hot all over that I kicked off the quilt. By chance, I touched something cool and unconsciously wanted to get closer, even closer. Unexpectedly, that coolness came up to me on its own and enveloped me. I couldn't help but let out a cry. Sweat soaked the bedsheet. The pain in my body and the inexplicable sense of pleasure came in waves like a hot tide, lasting until the sky gradually grew brighter. When I opened my eyes again, there was a strange face in front of me. I took a sharp intake of breath, but then, from the sofa opposite the bed, came the most familiar voice to me. "How are you feeling, wife? Are you feeling any better? I told you that you need to deal with your physical needs. It's just a pity that I promised Xiangwan that I won't touch any woman other than her, including you, for the next 6 months." My body couldn't stop trembling, and tears flowed down uncontrollably. I clenched my fists tightly. "You drugged me." Shen Huichuan let out a soft sigh. "It's just a drug to liven up the atmosphere. It doesn't harm the body. I've asked about it. Besides, Xiangwan and I often use it, and she hasn't shown any discomfort. She said that it's because your physical needs aren't being met that it causes an imbalance in your endocrine system and makes your emotions so volatile." I still looked at Shen Huichuan in disbelief. "Do you really not care about my feelings at all? Even if I sleep with another man, you can remain indifferent?" I tried to find some change in his expression. With a big smile on his face, Shen Huichuan pulled me into his arms. The eyes that looked at me were filled with deep love. But in my eyes, it was extremely ironic. "It doesn't matter, wife. I said that we have an open marriage. Everyone is just having some fun. As long as we understand each other and the person we love the most in our hearts is each other, we will eventually return to our family." Shen Huichuan grew up abroad since he was a child. I knew that he had an open mind, but I never expected that he could be so twisted. What kind of nonsense open marriage is this? It's all just an excuse he made for his philandering, just to have his own pleasure and to control me. He dragged me down to hell with him. I looked at his face and laughed. As I laughed, my eyes became red and wet. My sore and swollen eyes felt as if they were weighed down by 1,000 catties. Layers of disappointment gradually accumulated and finally turned into irreparable despair. I stared blankly out the window. Wife, I've already had someone clean up our wedding room again. And all the furniture has been replaced with new ones. You can move back anytime after you recover from your injury and get out of the hospital. I'm sorry that I can't restore Grandma's painting to its original state, but I'm already looking for experts in this field. Xiangwan's parents were stimulated, and their old illness flared up again, so they can't come to see you and apologize to you in person. I know you've always been magnanimous. And you definitely won't make things difficult for them, right? So I forgave them on your behalf, and will let bygones be bygones for what happened before. I know you're in a bad mood. I told Xiangwan that I'll stay at home with you recently, as long as who said I'm going home. I interrupted him. He looked at me in surprise. If you're not going home, do you want to stay in the hospital? I turned to look at the man who had been hiding under the quilt and listening to the commotion for a long time. I stretched out my hand and slowly pointed at him, but my eyes looked at Shen Huichuan with mockery. I'm going to stay at his place. Shen Huichuan didn't react for a moment and stood there stunned. My eyes were dead silent, but I raised the corners of my lips. I didn't have enough last night. Do you want to just stand there and watch me with him? Shen Huichuan's face rarely looked a bit unpleasant. He still stood there without moving, his lips trembling slightly, but he didn't say a word. Since he didn't leave, I didn't look at him either. I turned around and lifted the quilt, looking at the man expressionlessly. I held his chin in my hand and leaned down to kiss him. Unlike the vagueness of the previous day, I seriously tasted the taste of a man other than Shen Huichuan. I don't know how long Shen Huichuan stood there until a phone call rang. Then he couldn't help but pick up the phone with his trembling hand. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw that he almost dropped the phone on the ground. The phone was on speakerphone again, and Su Xiangwan's disgusting voice immediately sounded in the room. Huichuan, where are you? My chest feels stuffy, and I miss you so much that it hurts. I closed my eyes tightly. Go outside to answer the call. Shen Huichuan was so scared by my voice that he pressed the hang-up button. I don't know if he was scared by me scolding him for the first time or if he really couldn't wait to see Su Xiangwan. He left without even closing the door. Fortunately, he had already rented out this floor, and no one would come up unless it was necessary. Time passed by. When I woke up again, it was already dark. There were a pair of eyes staring at me in the dark. I lay powerlessly on the bed. I stared into the void. Lost in thought for a long time, suddenly, a strong arm stretched out in front of my eyes. Does it hurt? I turned my head to avoid it. Why did you agree to him? He looked at me in surprise. What? I didn't answer and just stared at him. Oh, you mean this? I don't have money. I need money. He gave me a carefree smile. I lowered my voice and got up, ready to leave this messy bed. Yesterday was my first time. He suddenly spoke up. My grandmother is very ill. It's very serious. But my parents don't want to treat her anymore. I was raised by my grandmother. Everyone else can give up on her, but I can't. His voice was a bit choked up. I stood there with my back to him, and my body stiffened suddenly. I thought of that torn masterpiece again. I was also raised by my grandmother, and everything about her was of great significance to me. I lowered my eyes. Give me your phone. Do you want to add me? He was somehow quite happy and handed his phone to me. His phone screen had SpongeBob SquarePants on it. After taking a quick look, I added his contact information and transferred a sum of money to him. Is this enough to treat your grandmother? Don't do this kind of thing again in the future. Get dressed and leave quickly. When I came out after washing up, he was indeed no longer on the bed. Just as I was about to leave, a small note on the table caught my attention. My name is Lu Kairang. Thank you. After reading it, I originally wanted to crumple it up and throw it away, but somehow, when I held it in my palm, it was like a ball of fire. Burning hot, I casually stuffed it into my pocket and turned to leave this hospital room. I didn't go home, and I didn't plan to go back to that so-called home either. I spent the whole morning renting a house outside and arrived at the company before going to work in the afternoon. As soon as I got out of the elevator, when my assistant saw me, his face instantly turned a bit stiff, and he seemed to want to say something but held back. Actually, I came to the company to ask Shen Huichuan for a divorce. I had someone print out the divorce agreement as quickly as possible. Vice President Ding. Vice President Ding. Why are you back? Weren't you injured? Don't you need to rest some more? You can rest assured about the plan for Rongsheng, I won't make any mistakes. You'd better go back and rest some more. When he mentioned the plan for Rongsheng, I was actually a bit worried. This was a project I had just taken over before my father's accident. President Li of Rongsheng only cooperated with Fang Yu because he trusted me, but I had been delayed for too many days because of personal matters, and I usually only gave instructions to my assistant verbally and online. I thanked my assistant for his concern, but I still insisted on going to the office. Report to me first. Seeing this, my assistant's face looked even worse. His stuttering aroused my suspicion. I stood there with a serious expression. What's going on? He looked at me for a long time, and I actually detected a hint of pity in his eyes. He let out a helpless sigh. Mr. Shun has already handed this project over to Vice President Su. I stood there stunned and blurted out instinctively. Vice President Su, yes. As soon as Mr. Shun came back to the company, he promoted Lawyer Su to Vice President Su, besides the Rongsheng project. All the other work you had in hand before has also been transferred to Vice President Su. After saying this, my assistant looked at my expression, but I was unexpectedly calm. I see, Vice President Ding. There are some things I have to say. When Su Xiangwan was a lawyer, she couldn't handle things well, let alone being a vice president. She doesn't understand these projects at all, but she still insists on making decisions and giving orders. If this goes on, the company will be. His words stopped abruptly as Shen Huaichuan appeared. His face was red with anger, as if he had suffered a great grievance on my behalf. Wife, why did you get out of the hospital so soon? Don't worry about the company's affairs. Xiangwan will help me with them. Shen Huaichuan wanted to come and hold my hand with a tender expression. I sneered and dodged. Can't I come? If I hadn't come to the company today, I wouldn't have known that I've already been pushed out of my position by you, Mr. Shun. He smiled awkwardly and pulled me into the office. Xiangwan wants to gain some experience. Just let her have it. She's still a newbie in this area. You're older than her, so you can just guide her more. The door of the office was pushed open, and only then did I realize that everything I had originally designed had long been broken and smashed and renovated. The decoration style here was exactly what I disliked the most, but it was what Su Xiangwan liked the most. Dolls and ornaments worth hundreds of thousands of yuan were lined up in a row, placed not far from the desk. The green plants that I had carefully taken care of were gone. Where are my green plants? I looked at Shen Huaichuan with a serious expression. Shen Huaichuan put his arm around me. Xiangwan said that those green plants were competing with her for oxygen when placed here. They were most suitable for the bathroom. I thought those were just the most common plants. So I let her do as she pleased. If you like them, I'll just buy you a few better ones. I looked at Shen Huaichuan angrily. Then he let out a sigh. All right, I'll have someone move them back from the bathroom for you now, but they can't be placed here anymore. Xiangwan said that she still doesn't understand a lot of things and needs to consult you. Wife, just help me. Be Xiangwan's assistant first and help me guide her. I never expected that Shen Huaichuan could make such a shameless request. I was so angry that I laughed instead. I don't know when Su Xiangwan came back. Seeing me standing in the office that now belonged to her, she looked very proud. Sister Ding Li, you're back. Shen Huaichuan had to go to a meeting, leaving only me and her in the office. Su Xiangwan didn't bother to pretend anymore. She sat on the genuine leather sofa that I had carefully selected. Ding Li, it's like this now. When are you going to leave? Can't you see if Huaichuan still has you in his heart? If he really cared about you, would he have tricked your father into signing the settlement agreement? Would he have given me the key to your wedding room and let my parents live in? Ding Li, get a divorce. He doesn't love you anymore. I suddenly loosened my clenched fist and put the divorce agreement on the table. She stared at it and suddenly asked, "What do you mean? You know better than anyone else whether Shen Huaichuan will divorce me or not, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't force me to ask for a divorce. The opportunity is right in front of you. As long as you have the means to make him sign this divorce agreement, I will naturally leave and go to a place where he can never find me again." Su Xiangwan's eyes were full of eagerness, and she seemed to be afraid that I would play some tricks. I turned around and left, but she suddenly called out to me. "Do you really want to divorce Huaichuan? Are you willing to give up on him? Give up on so much property that's within your reach?" I stood there silently, but my mind was clearer than ever before. The things are in your hands. Whether it works or not depends on your ability. I didn't answer her but raised my foot and left. What I gave to Su Xiangwan, besides the divorce agreement, was also my resignation letter. At the beginning, so many companies extended an olive branch to me. Graduating from a prestigious university and having secured countless unattainable contracts for Fang Yu, I resolutely stayed only for Shen Huichuan. I dedicated myself wholeheartedly, giving all my youth, talent, and everything else to Fang Yu and Shen Huichuan, but he kicked me away like a pebble on the road under his feet. What he didn't cherish, someone else would surely cherish. Leaving Fang Yu was never a pity for me. I waited at home for a week before finally receiving a message from Su Xiangwan. It was a picture, and the signature on it was indeed Shen Huichuan's. Not long after, she mailed that agreement to the place I specified. When I went to pick it up, I happened to pass by a very famous cake shop. When I came out again, I was holding a bag of cakes in my hand and went home. As soon as I turned the key in the lock, the door opened from the inside. The man in front of me smiled and took the things from my hand. Then he picked me up and kicked the door shut with his foot. He casually threw the things on the sofa and walked towards the bedroom without stopping. It's not dark yet. I panicked and grabbed his collar. He smiled and said, I can't wait. On the day I picked up Lu Kairang, it was raining heavily outside. I went to a public hospital to change my dressing. There was a commotion in the crowd, as if someone was arguing. The doctor who changed my dressing let out a helpless sigh. This person is really filial. The money for his college education and the medicine for his grandmother are all earned by himself. It's just a pity that he has such heartless parents. Alas, you can't say that. The old lady's illness doesn't have much time left either. When I finished changing the dressing and went out, I walked around the crowd and only then realized that the person they were talking about was actually him. I remembered his name, Lu Kairang. I didn't want to get involved in trouble, but my feet seemed to be rooted to the spot and I couldn't move at all. I watched as he knelt down and begged the doctor to treat his seriously ill grandmother. I watched as his parents viciously cursed the old woman in the hospital bed, calling her a burden and a drag. Finally, I watched as he stood under the rain, getting his clothes all wet. I held the umbrella over his head, and he looked at me in surprise. How much is still needed for the medical expenses? I'll pay for it all. After that day, he followed me home. He told me that he was homeless and that no one wanted him, except for his grandmother and me. He also told me that after he went back that day, his parents rummaged through his phone and found a large sum of money in his account. Then they coaxed and tricked him into giving them all the money, but they had no intention of treating his grandmother. Am I really stupid? I looked at the man in front of me who had been deeply hurt. Under his slightly expectant gaze, I nodded. He became even more upset. I smiled softly, tilted my head, and gave him a kiss. You are really stupid, but also very kind. I haven't met someone like you for a long time. I have never regarded Lu Kairang as a substitute for anyone, and he is not a substitute for Shen Huichuan either. He is a completely different existence from Shen Huichuan. Shen Huichuan has lived in the business world since he was a child. He would never do things that are thankless, but precisely because of this, he is proud and conceited, always as hot as fire. No matter how warm the fire is, if you're not careful, it will burn you. And Lu Kairang is like a cup of warm water by the bedside every day. He treats all the people around him who are kind to him with kindness. His meticulousness and warmth are exactly what I want the most. I was out of touch for 2 weeks. And Shen Huichuan was not happy about it. Before, when he couldn't get in touch with me, he thought that I had left home in a fit of anger because Su Xiangwan had taken my position. Helplessly, he sent me a text message. Since when have you become so childish? What I said is impossible to change. Even if you're angry, you have to accept the fact that Xiangwan has become the vice president. After seeing the text message, I sneered and blocked all of his phone numbers. In the 3rd week, seeing that he was in a bad mood, Su Xiangwan wanted to take him to the Maldives for a trip. He agreed irritably. Before they left, Su Xiangwan sent me a lot of selfies with the caption, "We are more suitable for each other. Don't you think?" My opinion didn't matter. I blocked her as well with a flick of my wrist. After being married for so many years, I know every expression on Shen Huichuan's face very well. With just one glance, I could tell that when Su Xiangwan suggested taking these photos, Shen Huichuan was very impatient. Our mutual friend was also on the trip. She told me that Shen Huichuan got on the plane with a dark face. Along the way, He ignored everything Su Xiangwan said to him and just kept looking through all the contact information about me on his phone. He tried each one, and the result was obvious. I either deleted or blocked all the accounts related to him, coincidentally. The scene of Lu Kairang accompanying me to build a snowman outside the hospital was taken by a passerby and posted online. Since Shen Huichuan couldn't get in touch with me, he found everything boring. Lying on the chair listlessly and irritably, he happened to come across a popular video online. At the beginning of the video, it was just a back view, but he immediately sat up straight. The video wasn't long, but he watched it over and over again for half an hour. Suddenly, he laughed out loud. But that laugh wasn't from genuine joy, it was the anger burning with jealousy. He immediately asked his assistant to buy a return ticket and left Su Xiangwan alone on the other side of the ocean. In the end, Lu Chirang's grandmother passed away. I accompanied him through the most difficult days. Along the way, he held my hand tightly and wouldn't let go. "Will you leave me like grandma and make me never see you again?" "No," I said firmly. I leaned my head against him. "Ding Li." A familiar voice came from behind. It was Shen Huichuan. He slammed the car door shut, and his chest rose and fell rapidly. I looked back at him expressionlessly, but I never let go of the hand I was holding. His gaze landed on the hands that Lu Kairang and I were holding tightly. His face turned pale, but he still forced a smile for me. "Wife, it's time to go home." He reached out his hand to me. He stood there, waiting. He thought that, like countless times before, I would run forward and hold his hand tightly, but this time, I didn't. I averted my gaze from him and was about to turn around. "Wife," he called out to me urgently again. He took a few steps forward. "I've had enough of playing around. I want to go home. Let's go home, okay?" There was a pleading tone in Shen Huichuan's words. It was really rare. The arrogant him was actually begging me to take him home. Home? Do we still have a home? My cold tone completely shattered his hope. Shen Huichuan was like being struck by lightning, and his body couldn't stop trembling. Seeing that I was about to leave, he frantically grabbed me from behind and quickly raised his hand, swinging it in Lu Chirang's direction. I was quick-eyed and grabbed his hand firmly. "Have you gone crazy enough?" I shook off his hand, but he stuck to me again like a piece of chewing gum. "Wife, we do have a home. If you don't like that place, I'll buy another house. You can go anywhere you want. Just the two of us. I won't play around anymore, and I won't come home late either. I swear, this is real." I laughed coldly. "But Shen Huichuan, I don't love you anymore. Impossible. How could you not love me?" "Don't love me? Who do you love?" "Him." He pointed at Lu Kairang. Lu Kairang stood in front of me, protecting me with his whole body. "Mr. Shen, love can't be forced. How many things have you done to hurt her under the guise of love? You've never considered her feelings." "Shut up. Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to lecture me? Don't forget, without me, you wouldn't have been able to get into my wife's bed." I protected Lu Kairang behind me and looked at Shen Huichuan with disgust in my eyes. "You're right. I should thank you for that. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have met him." "Shen Huichuan, it's all over between us. You've already signed the divorce agreement. If you don't believe it, go and ask your 44th lover. She'll tell you the answer." When Shen Huichuan saw the signed divorce agreement, he was instantly enraged. He recalled the situation in which he had signed this document. He rushed downstairs to my house and shouted loudly, "I won't agree to the divorce. Ding Li, you can only be my woman. I won't allow you to fall in love with another man." I ignored his anger and called the community security guards to drive him away. From the very beginning, I knew that Shen Huichuan wouldn't let go so easily. He is intelligent, humorous, passionate, and energetic, but he inevitably makes some mistakes at work. And it's always me who helps him clean up the mess. I handed all the folders I had prepared in advance to my lawyer and asked him to handle my divorce case entirely. Shen Huichuan had cheated on me 44 times during our marriage. Each woman in the photos had once thought that she would be his only one. When he received the lawsuit, Shen Huichuan called me using my former assistant's phone. "Wife, I've already fired Su Xiangwan. The position of vice president is still yours. Will you come back? Let's not get a divorce. Let's live a good life, okay?" I was annoyed and refused him. The next second, he said viciously, "Ding Li, everything you have was given by my family. Without Fang Yu, how could you be where you are today? Where else could you get the position of vice president? I just had some fun for a few years during our marriage. Think about it. Which of those women did I treat like you? At the end of his words, he gradually broke down and sobbed, "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Let's go home, okay? I'm begging you. Don't leave me." I no longer have the slightest attachment to him. The beautiful memories in my mind are like fireworks that have passed by. Shen Huichuan, you're wrong. It's never Fang Yu that made me who I am. There are some things he doesn't know at all. Several times when Fang Yu was in crisis, due to his father's mistakes in decision-making, everyone endured great pressure to prop up Fang Yu. During that time, I had endless social engagements in the business world. Every time I drank until my stomach bled, it was his tears of heartache without knowing anything that strengthened my determination to hold up the sky for him. I just didn't want to see all the hard work being destroyed in the hands of Su Xiangwan, who didn't know anything. In fact, I don't care about the position of vice president at all, not to mention that Rongsheng had repeatedly extended an olive branch to me, which was much more glamorous than this so-called vice president position. We can't go back anymore. I had already accepted Rongsheng's invitation and would leave this city with Lu Kairang in a few days. Shen Huichuan never heard from me again. He went crazy and smashed everything in the house. Then he blamed all the mistakes on Su Xiangwan. He thought that it was Su Xiangwan's repeated provocations that made him lose me completely. Otherwise, why were there no problems with the previous 43 women? But there was a problem with her. Coincidentally, Su Xiangwan, who had broken up with him, came to his door to ask for money, wanting to get compensation for her lost youth. Looking at her lips opening and closing, Shen Huichuan went crazy. He picked up a fruit knife from the dining table, rushed forward, and stabbed Su Xiangwan in the stomach. When my friend called to tell me about it, she was full of regret. How could a good person end up like this? Su Xiangwan's parents are stubbornly holding him accountable, shouting that a murderer should pay with his life. In fact, they just want to use the money to buy a house for their second son's marriage. They asked the Shun family for a huge sum of compensation. Because of Feng Yue's breach of contract in changing the person in charge, Rongsheng has proposed to withdraw its investment. The whole company is in a state of turmoil. The old Mr. Shun has taken the stage again despite his illness. Now, no one in Fang Yu is having a good time. Although I felt sorry, I no longer softened my heart. After all, Fang Yu